From pounding out beats on stage to closing deals in the real estate market, today we're diving into the incredible journey of Kevin Boutot. You may know him as the longtime drummer of the metalcore, deathcore band, the Acacia Strain, but there's a whole new rhythm to his life these days.
Before I got into it, I was like, you know what, I'll just make sure that when I know I'm going to be leaving, a month before, I'll stop taking new buyers and stuff like that. But when reality came and those situations happened, there was no saying no.
We'll explore Kevin's exciting dual life and the surprising twists and turns of his career. Stay tuned to hear about a professional drummer who's creating a new kind of hit in the housing market and what it's like finding harmony in unexpected places. Welcome to Heavy Realty. Hi, Kevin. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Heavy Realty podcast. How are you?
I am good, Juliet. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Just to kind of get into it, would you be able to tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
My name is Kevin Boutot. I'm a realtor up in the capital region of New York, near Albany. Was part of the music industry for about 20 years. I just recently left the band I was in called the Acacia Strain. A hard yet also easiest decision ever. It was just becoming a little too hard on my little one for me to be gone, and very easy decision to just stop going on the road and being home for her.
To start with, how did you get started in music?
Probably 16 or 17, me and my friends that started a band together, just jamming in the garage, playing covers like Slayer covers, Metallica covers. We were at a show, and some friends of ours that had a band were like, hey, we know you guys have been playing a couple stuff. Do you just want to play a couple covers, in between a couple bands? And we were like, sure, why not? So that was my first show. It was at a YMCA basketball court. There was probably about 15 people in attendance. It was a real star-studded event. But then from there, started out playing with a couple other local bands, and then joined a band called 1,000 Falling Skies from Connecticut. We just so happened to do a 10 or 12-day tour with another band called the Acacia Strain. And at that time, they had a fill-in drummer. And my band, I was 18. Everyone else were in their mid to late 20s. That was in my band. So they were all kind of over it. And I was asked on the roof of the Blood Red Club in Dallas, Texas, if I wanted to be their new drummer. And I, of course, said yes. And it was a very wonderful, very memorable 20 years.
In the world of touring and in your history of touring these 20 years, what's your favorite tour that you've been on? Is there one?
Man, it is really hard to say, because I can tell you one tour in particular is my favorite one. And then while telling you that story, I will be thinking about a different tour. Out of all these 20 years, my favorite place I've been, though, has definitely been Japan. Japan is just the greatest country, greatest food, the best people.
There's likely a lot of music nerds listening to this. So really quick, if you could, let us know what your favorite piece of gear is to bring on the road.
I could say right now, probably my favorite thing to bring on tour since we started using them was my in-ears. I used 64 audio. Playing with in-ears into a click kind of changed everything and made everything so much better. Knowing that we were playing virtually perfect as we could every night on tempo with how everyone heard it on record at first.
I couldn't agree with you more from hearing what people are saying. David, my boyfriend, has 64 audio in-ears, and they are insane. I tried them on before he got the custom molded ones.
Mm-hmm.
Life-changing sound, even just when listening to music.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with the app called Tidal, Tidal, but you put music on that with the 64 audio, boom, everything sounds like it's a whole new experience. It's insane. So I'm sure that you're having a great experience with those. I hear nothing but good things. So that's super sick.
And they're an amazing company. So
awesome. Yeah. Shout out.
Shout out to Ricky, if you've seen this.
Okay. Well, kind of like to step into something else. When did you realize that you maybe needed a side hustle with real estate or a full hustle? When did real estate kind of come into the picture with you being a full-time musician? How did that kind of come into play?
Everyone's favorite pandemic. At first we had to go, we were on the West Coast. It was in March 2020. We're on the West Coast. And it was every day there was new developments, cases going up like crazy, places closing down, limited amount of people at gatherings. And then, out of nowhere, the next day we wake up and they're all right, cool. Everything's shutting down. Can't have anybody anywhere. So we had to drive home from Las Vegas. And in our heads, we're like, you know what? 2-3 months, we're going to be in Europe on tour. It'll be fine. Nothing's going to happen. When in reality, we didn't get to tour again for another year and 7 months or something like that. COVID was the reason that I got into real estate. When I got home from that one tour, I was just doing a bunch of little things to supplement income. So I would stop draining my savings. And then a friend of mine. His name is Daniel Burke. He is a broker owner, I think associate broker at an exit realty brokerage down in Long Island. And I know he had left the band he was in straight from the path because real estate was getting very busy for him. And this is way before COVID. I would probably want to think 2018, 2017 is when he left straight from the path. I don't know. You're going to have to fact check that one. I saw he was very successful. And then obviously anyone that you knew was a realtor, and that was a good realtor, seeing their social media during, the first few months of the pandemic, it was absolutely insane. I was getting sick of doing the little jobs here and there, like doing Instacart and Uber Eats and all that sort of stuff. I reached out to Dan and I was like, hey, can we set up a time to have a phone call? I just want to chat with you about real estate. Kind of want you to convince me to do this here. So I think it was about 3 hours later, we got off the phone. A lot of catching up, and then he just basically, he sold it to me. Like, this man, he could sell a ketchup popsicle to a lady in white gloves. I definitely picked the right, I guess you could say, side hustle. Doing my first open house, of course, I was, a little bit nervous. But from there, I ended up, it was for a listing my broker, Jennifer, had put up. Ended up getting a buyer client from that. Never ended up actually going anywhere, but I got a little bit more experience. That's where I first learned how to write an offer. It didn't get accepted, and they just immediately were like, yeah, we're done with this. We're not going to try anymore. They were comfortable where they were. If you know how to talk to people, you know what you're supposed to be doing, and the fact that you get to help people do things, help someone live a dream. You get this investor that's brand new, wants to start out with some little two-family somewhere. I go find him the perfect two-family. He's excited. He's pumped. He gets a couple months into that, and then he's like, all right, cool, on to the next one. And I have a couple of clients that, like, it's, every few months or so, once we close, they recoup some funds where they can throw another down payment into something else.
I think of a lot of people that are in heavy realty and just kind of obviously in general that were affected by the lockdowns. Lives changed because of those things and really had to recalibrate and think what they're going to do for money, for income, all of this stuff. And that's why I'm so glad that we have this network that's able to help people in the music industry, or whether you're a musician or whatever it is, because I always saw that there's the same skill sets. There's the same types of things. We have to get out and talk to people and meet, and there's a whole networking thing in the music industry, right? It's who you know, it's meeting the right people, it's getting this and that. It's, all of these things that go into it. Those things also translate into the world of real estate. And it sounds like you had all of those skills from various things, I'm sure, your personality for one, all of your experience of being on the road for 20 years. How many new people are you meeting all the time? And you're kind of forced to talk to them, even if you don't want to, right? Real estate is also very much that way. Like,
oh, yeah.
You don't want to talk. Sometimes you don't want to do these things. You don't want to have to call all these expireds and talk to this and have these difficult conversations or whatever it is, but you do it and you just show up and you do it and you nail it. And that's always kind of the same. And you got to show face because these people are relying on you in some way or another. So
right.
Sounds like you made a very seamless transition into that, into the real estate world from the music world. With getting into real estate, how would you say that it's changed your financial outlook?
It made me, it brought me to a level where I can do a lot of things now that I guess I probably wouldn't have been able to do before, especially coupled with the income that was coming in from music. Like last year I made the most money I've ever made in my life. It was a very, very wonderful number. I was able to do, if I came home from a tour, honestly, last year we didn't tour too much. But real estate was just off the wall. It was amazing. But one thing I will say, though, is being a realtor, because you get those nice big fat checks. It looks real cool and it keeps getting, your bank account keeps getting bigger and bigger. But I would definitely say make sure that savings account is looking a lot larger than your checking account. The harsh reality of tax time.
Oh, God.
When that comes around.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
I don't know how the taxes are in New York, but I think they're pretty high, right? Hawaii is just awful with taxes, so it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. So you basically, with state taxes here, you basically have to figure 40% of your income they're going to try to take.
That's the same for Hawaii.
So I would put... It depended on the transaction. Like if it was a smaller one in like a little two-family that went for like $125,000 or something like that, not a big check, that would just go straight into savings. But then if I got, a nicer, like say like a $500,000 home that sold or something like that, pretty decent check, half would go on my savings, half would go on the checking account. Because man, I'm so glad I saved last year. It took quite a large dent out of my savings, but at the same time, it was just amazing to still see how well off I was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, still am to, get what I need to get done. Not have to worry about the man coming and chasing me down, knocking on my door for money.
I think that's a good thing that you bring up is the importance of understanding money. With a lot of our friends, I'm sure, with my friends that are in the music industry or musicians or creatives of any kind, money is a really big turnoff to think about in a lot of different ways. They don't. There's a big lack of understanding it in the overall importance of certain things about it, whether it's taxes and having the right CPA and even the money that you get from, the recordings and everything. Like, it's very important to understand it long term. And, I know that there's a lot of friends of mine that go on the road, they come back with a big grip of money, they spend it right away. And then they're stuck in a kind of a cycle or something. And having that conversation about money is often such a turnoff. I have friends that think that they're selling out because they're wanting to care about money or being told to care about money. And I would love for people to have a better understanding of the fact of how important it is just to live with it and to understand it, and that you can still completely be yourself. You can be a musician, you can be all of these things, you can be a metalhead, a punk, or whatever, label you have for yourself, and set yourself up well financially, because I can tell you, if you blow it in your 20s and your 30s, you're really going to regret it in your 40s and your 50s.
For a lot of people, it's definitely a very rude awakening once they realize what they have to do. But I also was kind of prepared for that with the band income, because technically the same thing with the music. Technically, you get a 1099 for all the pay we got. So I'm used to having to find every little thing that I can write off.
Mm-hmm. Smart.
But when you want to buy a house, you have to not write off too much, because then your income goes down. And of course, they don't look at the gross number.
Mm-hmm.
They look at your adjusted income, and it's like, come on.
I have a question for you. Are you a homeowner now?
I am not. I'm still renting, only because it's allowing me to save, because I find myself in a fortunate enough position where I'm renting a full house for under $1,000 a month, thanks to the fact that my landlords are quite elderly, 92. So, yeah, very old. They just wanted to make sure that somebody good was living in the house. And it's a funny story. My friends, with the first house that I sold, they were living here. And the apartment that I was at before this, I didn't have the greatest neighbors that lived above me.
Oh, gosh.
So I came here one day to get some sort of document or something like that before closing. And I was like, what are you guys doing with this? And like, oh, well, the landlord knows we're moving. I was like, have they talked to anybody else yet? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, here, I'm just going to give me their number, please. Let me talk to them. So yeah, I got set up, and then I moved in basically the same week that they moved out. This is one of those cases where, you tell everyone, oh, your mortgage is going to be so much cheaper than your rent. Not in today's world.
It's really great that you completely understand the difference between, the benefits of renting versus the benefits of home ownership. And, even though you probably have a great setup now where you're paying very little, right? Rent is, as they say, 100% interest, right? You're not building anything with that rent that you pay, but you're saving at the same time. So at this time, it totally works out and makes sense for you, but you understand that getting into housing at some point is going to be, what needs to happen probably for you and your family. Would you say that's right?
Yeah, home ownership, it's no question. It has way more benefits than renting, in my opinion. With my current situation, it's very hard to just to leave and just try to jump right into a house. I almost bought, got my pre-approval, all that good stuff with a lender that was well versed in like the general contracting side of income, and helped me out big time and got me a really nice pre-approval. And there was a lot of houses showing up. When I find a house, I want it. I mean, even if it needs a little bit of work, but it'll need to be the perfect place.
I have a question for you. How did real estate create, more sustainability as being a musician? I understand that you're not a touring musician right now, just a new season has come for you.
Mm-hmm.
But has this been able to indeed give you a lot more time to work on your music? And will it, I'm assuming?
It definitely gave me the freedom to do a lot more of what I want to do. As far as like I had more free time to go to my practice space and practice playing. But yeah, I would say real estate definitely helped income-wise and free time-wise to be able to do more things with making things easier.
When you were touring, when you were actively touring, and I know you will be making music again, but maybe just as the example of from the perspective of a touring musician, how did you balance being on the road and having clients at the same time? Because I know that can be a lot, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was a lot sometimes. Before I got into it, I was like, you know what, I'll just make sure that when I know I'm going to be leaving, I'll a month before, I'll stop taking new buyers and stuff like that. But when reality came and like those situations happened, there was no saying no. Like I couldn't say, hey, these awesome new buyers that I got, do you guys mind waiting, a couple months till I get home and we can start looking? No one wants to wait for that. So I would do a bunch of grinding before leaving, get all the important things I need to get done for a client. And then I'd be lucky enough to have either other agents or like my office admin, just toss her a few bucks. Like, hey, can you go be there for their inspection? Or if I had a listing, hey, can you go open the door for the appraiser? I would have like my office admin bring them to showings and stuff like that. And of course I would write the offers and get all that stuff. But I mean, the most amazing, greatest tool that a realtor can have is their cell phone. And you can do 99.9% of the work you need to do on your phone. It's the same thing as being home. As long as you know how to communicate and you know where you're at in the transaction, you know what needs to be done. You can have something covered if someone needs to physically go somewhere for you. Yeah, it's honestly, it wasn't that bad.
I think you bring up a great point. As long as you have the technology, and then as long as you have the right people in place, you have the right support, your boots on the ground, if you will. I'm a realtor in Colorado and Hawaii, and I'm not always in both places. It's impossible, right? So, and you being on the road, having people that you trust that can help you with the small things, of course, telling your clients up front how it's going to go because you're gone or whatever, however you need to go about it. But, having showing assistants and those boots on ground really make the job so feasible from almost wherever you are, because that's kind of what I always say with real estate. Most of the work is up here. It's up here and it's going to be on your phone. So as long as you have your brain in order and you're able to like be coherent and negotiate and be on point with what your clients need or what's going on, and you have your phone, you can pretty much do it from anywhere when on the road. And that's a wonderful thing that I think a lot of people forget because they think that they have to do absolutely everything. And that's kind of the problem I see with a lot of realtors or just people in general is when they want to take on too much, they don't want to delegate, right? And so it sounds like you understand that very well. So that's good that you can kind of set yourself up that way.
This past winter, we were in Europe for a whole month, and an investor client of mine reached out about wanting to see this little it was like a little repo, like a car repo lot. Had a garage in it, some bays to, do some mechanic work and stuff like that. I never once, even still to this day, I've seen the property in person. I sent my office admin to meet them for the showing. They did the showing. I negotiated the entire thing and wrote the entire offer. I think we were in Warsaw, Poland that day when I wrote the offer on my computer in the green room. It got accepted. And I think the only other thing that made this a lot easier also, considering being away, was the listing agent on the garage was one of my best friend's wife's father.
Oh, nice.
So I already had that rapport with him where it was just like, hey, John, how are you? Yeah, it's like anytime I see him, he was always asking. I think it was closed before I even got home.
Wow.
Got home to that little paycheck. Yeah, it was really cool. I got an entire deal from start to finish done while
on the road
on tour in Europe. It's not impossible.
I think you bring up a good point there with like relationships, right? And kind of like being good to a lot of people, because I know in my life I've been like, fuck this person, whatever. Like I'm never an outright dick, but I've realized the more as time goes on, maybe with age and also very much with this type of work, whether it's in the music industry or real estate industry, your reputation really, really matters. And words can spread like wildfire and how you hold yourself and whatever it is. And you never know who's going to be your next client, seller, buyer, whatever it is that you might come across. And having good relationships is really key. Same within the music industry. You never know who's going to try to do what. How would you say that you've been able to maybe leverage in a positive way your connections from the music industry into real estate? Has that been something for you?
I've had a few different referral things happen that were all from people within heavy realty. Nothing ever really panned out, unfortunately, but it still got the networking going. I still, through them was able to speak to other people in different areas, growing a network, growing relationships, rapport with people. I will say there are some other ventures that I am a part of. Someone that I had met while they were trying to work with investors on gathering up portfolios, and I had a portfolio I was trying to shop off market. Came in contact with a certain person. It's been about a year and a half now where there's some projects and things in the work that are very, very cool that I cannot speak about, unfortunately.
Sure.
Because I would really love to. I would love to share with the world what's going on, but I just really can't. Quite a few connections now and different things and opportunities that have come about that I definitely would not have had if it wasn't for the real estate side.
With your real estate journey as a musician, have you yet at this time inspired other musicians in any way, whether that's investing, home ownership, or becoming a realtor? Like Dan has helped you, or have people seen you and been wanting to kind of get involved?
I mean, I have had people reach out and ask, how easy is it? Is it really worth it? How much money should I have set aside to do it? And I'm like, look, I always ask them first, I'm like, what kind of computer do you have? Do you have a good laptop? And they're usually like, yeah, I got a MacBook or whatever. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to send you a link right now for the realtor class that I took. I think it's only $200. And it's only the reason why you pay $200 is because you get the extra test prepping study guide, and you get 4 sample tests for the the licensing test that you would take, which I highly suggest whatever service someone uses, always get that extra prep, because if I didn't have that, it wouldn't have been as easy. But I usually start with that, do you have a good computer? And yeah. I'm like, all right, well, there's one cost you don't have to worry about. Here's, I'm sure you got $200 laying around. You get a whole year to complete it. And I'm sure you have 77 hours laying around within the next year to do something, because everyone knows at tours there are the downtime hours between getting to the venue, setting up, sound check, and then waiting to play. It's just sometimes dreadful. But I always encourage anyone that asks me, whether it be a music-related person or just anyone in general, friends of mine that are just trying to look for a different career change. I tell them exactly how it went for me. And obviously, you got to tell them, hey, this is how it went for me. This is not how it goes for everyone. If you look up the statistics and see how many people have left the industry since it grew so big during COVID, and then now it's kind of dwindling back down to, I guess you could say, closer to standard, normal numbers. If you think about me, just a few things that I've done, and I think there's about almost 4,500 realtors just in my MLS. So you got a lot of people to fight for or fight against. I wouldn't say fight. A lot of people to compete.
I couldn't agree with you more. If you have or want to have or can develop good people skills, good communication, have a decent personality, you can really do quite well in this industry. And I know that there's a lot of people out there who have those qualities and maybe are questioning if this could be something that they could do. And I'm telling you, you could, if you just study and you understand, the job itself and all of those things that go into it. Half of it to me is also your personality, and your ability to communicate with people. That's so huge. So you're right about that.
Yeah. Once you get that first couple icebreakers, hosting an open house, talking to a bunch of, strangers, you get that first lead, or if your broker's nice enough to toss you a couple bones, which I luckily was very fortunate to have people at my team doing that. You just have to keep going. You can't stop or slow down. There's going to be those little, everything slows down a bit, like a typical New York market. Once, the holidays start rolling around, nobody's going to want to do a damn thing until spring. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have, a good 3-4 months of nothing.
I have my last question for you. If you could have your dream house filled with your favorite musicians, alive or dead, for a party, what style of house would it be and who would be there?
I think a modernized castle kind of vibe would be cool on 100 acres with an actual moat.
Yeah.
Maybe some fake archers up in the towers, like trying to shoot down on you or something like that. You have to have all of Rush in there, especially Neil Peart, rest in peace, greatest drummer to ever live, in my opinion. Got to get Iron Maiden in there. Got to get Judas Priest in there. Pink Floyd, you got to get in there. My favorite band of all time is Pink Floyd, which people are always surprised considering the band I was just in for 20 years. Oh my God, the list is probably could be endless. There are times where I was still starstruck seeing people. Like there was one time where I was in the same room as Vinnie Paul, and that was like, whoa.
Oh
like,
my God.
Like Vinnie Paul is standing right there.
Wow, cool.
One time I was at Rainbow Bar and Grill after a show we played at the Whiskey, and everyone knows who's, was a staple that, basically had his own bar stool there, Lemmy from Motorhead. And I remember standing up at the bar. This is probably 10, 12 years ago, a long time ago. Standing at the bar, trying to get a drink, and I feel these two hands go on my shoulder and this like raspy voice say, "Excuse me, mate." And I just like look back, and he's literally like this close to my face, and I'm just like, "Oh, yes, yes, I'll move." Like, yeah, whatever you need, go ahead, buddy.
Wow.
So that was like a cool little moment, but I would probably honestly almost be too starstruck or like taken aback to even go talk to any of these people, because all I would want to do is have those conversations. I would love to sit down with Neil Peart from Rush and just ask him every question that everyone has ever wanted to ask him. And he is someone too that was famously very private when he was on the road, especially when Rush first came back in there. I think it was around 2004, 2001. I can't remember, 2002. I don't know. It was after his wife and daughter had passed away, and the band took a really long hiatus. Fun fact about that: the first show they played back was in Hartford, Connecticut, and I was there.
Oh my gosh!
All these things I would love to ask him, but I know he's a very private guy. So yeah, it would be cool to have a big party with a bunch of people that I'm influenced by. But at the same time, it would be a pretty lame party host, because I would just be like, everybody would be there. I'm like, hi, Kevin. Have fun. I'm gonna go hide in my room now. Or I'm just gonna be the guy that's just on the pool float all night, just waving and saying hi all awkwardly.
I love how thoughtful and empathetic you are in your fantasy party towards others. It's great.
I would love to have all these people come over, but at the same time, I know how it just sometimes drains the soul out of you having to talk about it.
I'm sure.
So I will just, I would gladly give them that break. Just go have your fun, guys. I'll be over here. If you need anything, let me know. Also, if you guys need to buy a house or sell any properties, I got you covered.
There you go. Awesome.
Yeah,
that sounds like a good time, actually. Well, thank you so much for being here and for joining me. And, I've been so grateful that you've been a supporter of kind of what we're trying to do here, which is, really educate musicians and creatives about real estate in any form. So thanks again for your support with this. Where can people find you?
Instagram, Facebook, just my name at Kevin Boutot, or my realtor one is at Sell It with Kevin. I have a LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff for business networking. Just search my name, you'll find me there. But as far as the music goes, anything streamable, all the streaming platforms, YouTube for music videos, just type in the Acacia Strain and you'll find us. It won't be hard, trust me.
Will not be hard, very easy.
You can find me everywhere.
Thank you again for your time. We look forward to doing another conversation. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too, Juliet. Thank you.